Hi YouTube, my name is Jack, and it's been a while since I sat in front of a camera. Um, Hurricane Isaias has made landfall on the East Coast today, so I'm staying inside and out of the rain. I have a cup of tea here with me, and I figured I'd just sort of sit down and talk to the camera for a while. So first things first, very, very exciting news. I announced this on Twitter, but I'll say it here as well because I'm excited. I wrote a book. And I have signed a contract with Llewellyn, which is super, super exciting. I can't share any other details right now because there's a lot that hasn't been finalized yet, but as I have more information to share, I certainly will. But that will probably be published, not for a while now, not until, the back half of 2021, something like that. But yeah, it's really, really exciting. Holy crap, I wrote a book. So, fun stuff. The thing that I really wanted to talk about today, I've been sitting and thinking a lot about, the work, capital W, the work, that you hear people talk about in occult communities, tarot, shadow work, etc. The stuff that we are supposed to be doing to make ourselves better and to make the world a better place through occultism. Better living through chemistry slash the occult. There's a certain element of what's the point of tarot, or, in other areas of occultism, of magic or religion or whatever. What's the point of doing these things if they don't allow us to make our lives better, ourselves better as people, and the world around us a better place to live, right? The part of what we're trying to do is not just to sort of passively observe the world, but also to effect a positive change on it. And there's some variation in how seriously people take that idea, right? You think about uh, there are some people who see the goal of occult study as achieving transcendence and sort of getting off the carousel and removing oneself from the world, becoming an ascetic, or whatever, but distancing oneself from material reality in such a way that you're not trying to improve material reality, you're trying to sort of cut yourself out of it and reach a point where you no longer care about it. And no shade to people who have that goal, but it's very much not what I am trying to do with my occult practices, right? There's a certain extent to which I am trying to achieve transcendent consciousness. That's wonderful. It's great to sort of pop out of your own head and see the world from this beautiful transcendent point of view. But I also care about the world and am connected to the world and invested in it. And part of my work is trying to find the worlds that I can meaningfully improve this world that we live in and make it better for other people as well. So, in conjunction with that, I've been thinking a lot about the three Septenaries of the Major Arcana. I have a blog post about this from a couple of years back. I'll link it into the video description if I can figure out how to do that. Not so great with the YouTube technology, but I'm confident enough that I can figure that out. So the Major Arcana of the Tarot are divided into 21 cards. If you remove the Fool, 22 cards. If you remove the Fool, that leaves you with 21, which can be divided into 3 runs of 7. And this is an idea that shows up in Eliphas Levi, that shows up in Attila, like, it's in a couple of places, but, these 3 Septenaries represent sort of the Fool's journey writ large, brought down onto a smaller scale. And the idea is the Fool's journey through the 21 cards of Major Arcana is actually 3 smaller journeys, which sort of replicate the same pattern with 3 different themes. So the first Septenary starts with the Magician and ends with the Chariot, and that's about the Fool's development as an individual, as an ego consciousness, right? Personal actualization. And then the next Septenary starts with, depending on what your deck is, either Justice or Strength, and it runs up through Temperance. And so this is more abstract, this is sort of popped out a level, and this deals with social and moral concerns, right? This is the septenary where you find the virtues that fill up the major arcana. So you have justice, you have temperance, you have strength or courage. And these are sort of the moral considerations. So it's not personal actualization, it's social or societal actualization. And then the final septenary, the final run of the Fool's Journey, starts with the devil and runs through to the world. And this is the septenary that includes cards like the sun and the moon and the star, so this is cosmic and universal. And so we have three miniature journeys, right? The personal, the social, and the cosmic. Interestingly enough, these kind of parallel to the three triads on the Tree of Life: the astral triad, the moral triad, and the supernal triad. I may have talked about those somewhere in the blog. If I haven't, I'll write a post about them at some point. But so it occurred to me that when we're thinking about the work, big, capital W work that we as occultists are trying to do, those are really the three categories that this kind of work falls into, right? You have the work of self-actualization, the work that you're doing on yourself, your shadow work. You have the social work that you're doing, going out into society and trying to work with other people. And then you have, what can be understood in a couple of different ways. You can think about it as environmental work, right? Work to try to protect the physical world that we live in. You can also think about it as religious work, work in terms of trying to sort of connect with transcendent deity, cosmic consciousness, the Akashic records, whatever kind of veneer you want to put on that. And so I thought it would be nice to have just a real simple tarot spread where you pull one card from each of those three septenaries to see, where in your miniature journey are you with each of those three levels of work. And right, the thing about the major arcana is they're cyclical. So the Fool starts with the Magician, works his way all the way through to the World, and then immediately starts the cycle back again and comes back to the Magician, right? There is no beginning and no ending. It's just sort of this ongoing cycle where you're always driving on to the next stage of things. And the same is true for the septenaries, right? So the first septenary starts with the Magician, goes through to the Chariot, and then once you reach the Chariot, the next thing you do is you come back to the Magician and you start the cycle over again. And so wherever you are in your life, whatever you're doing, there's always a next step. There's always a next thing to strive for. And so I thought it'd be interesting to, take your tarot deck. I'm using Toth because that's just what I use these days. I did a reading over the weekend, actually, with the Ghetto Tarot, which is a beautiful, beautiful deck. It's largely Rider-Waite-Smith imagery, but it's done with photography, live-action models, and it's all done in Haiti. And it incorporates a little bit of Haitian culture. It's stunning. But anyways, I'm getting distracted. So take your tarot deck, pull out all the major arcana, and then, set the Fool aside, because the Fool is not part of any of the septenaries. The Fool is, for all intents and purposes, the Fool is a significator card, right? The Fool is you setting out on your journey in each of these three triads. And then take the other the remaining cards, and you divide them into three stacks based on the three septenaries. So I have the Magician through the Chariot here. I have Justice through Temperance here. This is the Toth deck, so Justice is number 8, and Temperance is actually called Art, not Temperance, but it's the same card. And then I have the Devil through the Universe here. And the basic idea is just pull one card from each septenary. And that's where you are in your work with the personal, the social, and the transcendent, right? So I'll just do this on camera right now, thinking about the work that I have to do. For the personal triad, I've shuffled, I pull a card, and I have the High Priestess. No surprises there. For the social triad, I'm shuffling right now. I'll pull a card, and I have Art or Temperance. Once again, I'm unsurprised by that. And finally, for the cosmic, transcendent, religious, environmental, whatever spin you want to put on it, I have drum roll please, the devil. So this is just a real sort of short and simple roadmap of what's the work that I'm trying to do on myself right now. And the answer is, right, the High Priestess. I'm trying to achieve transcendence. I'm trying to step past ego consciousness. What's the work that I'm trying to do in society right now? And it's art. It's trying to, particularly sort of in the context of the state of the world right now. I might read this card differently in other social contexts. But this card to me very much talks about trying to find beauty and goodness in a world that otherwise seems pretty fucking terrible. That's... I read a James Baldwin quote this morning that just really hit me right in the center of my chest. Yesterday was James Baldwin's birthday, for those of you who don't know, and so a lot of people were sharing, quotes and things like that. And he said, "Not everything that is confronted can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is confronted." Right? Not every attempt to make the world better will succeed, but the world can only be better if you make those attempts. And if you do it, a thing that I'm really working on, and this connects back into my High Priestess card. Sorry, there's so much glare, I realize you can't see that. It connects back into the High Priestess. A thing that I'm really working on personally, and this is the work that I'm doing, and it's not necessarily what everyone else should be doing. This is where I stand in my work, is trying to find a way to engage with the world without falling into anger or nihilism or those sorts of negative emotions, which have their place and are a proportionate response to the way that the world is right now. Where I am in my own work is really trying not to give in to that and trying to cultivate hope for a better world, belief in the fundamental goodness of people, the ability to have hard conversations and try to change people's minds without getting angry, without getting resentful, and really approaching those conversations in the spirit of openness and love. There's also, no quarter for Nazis, right? There are times where it's not appropriate to try and be, peace and love and trust and all that wonderful stuff. This is where I am, particularly with sort of some of the things that I'm dealing with in my communities, but that's not universal, right? This is a reading for me. This is not a reading for how everyone should be engaging with the world right now. And interestingly enough, this last thing, I'm going to read it as sort of religious work, transcendent work. You don't have to. But I have the devil, which I'm Wiccan, for those of you who don't know. The devil card in the tarot, particularly this one, strongly makes me think of the Horned God. And I certainly do have some meditative and devotional work with him that I've been sort of getting really deep into lately. My relationship with him has altered and deepened in a number of significant ways. But I think also this card for me is speaking to, walking that line. There's a balance between, over here, I'm trying to achieve transcendent consciousness. I'm trying to break out of ego consciousness in a way. But the devil is over here as a reminder that, you're not supposed to get rid of the ego entirely. You're not supposed to abandon your personality. You're not supposed to stop being a person with, hopes and fears and wants and flaws. And, I have flaws. And part of the point of religious transcendent work is not to completely rid yourself of all your flaws, because that's something you're never going to achieve. And if that's the standard you set for yourself, you will always fail. But rather to realize that even with your flaws, you are worthy of, communion with the divine. You are good enough. There's a part of the Gnostic Mass that always strikes me, Gnostic Mass by Aleister Crowley, where, big, long, beautiful ritual. There's a part in the invocation where they say, "There is no part of me that is not of the gods." And boy, if that doesn't sit with me, right? The idea that, you can be wholly yourself, and you can fuck up, and you can, you know, be imperfect. And as long as you're trying, as long as you acknowledge your imperfections, work on them, handle your shit, um, don't make excuses for bad behavior, but acknowledge that you're not a saint, you're not a bodhisattva, and you still have work to do. As long as you keep trying, that is good enough. And that's, I think, where I stand with my work in the third septenary. So, I don't know. This has been a bit of a rambly video, I know, but it's a thing that's been on my mind. This idea of using the three septenaries as a map for the work at 3 different levels, and I figured I'd share. And also, share a little bit. I realize I've been vague in some ways. Some of the work that I'm doing inevitably is personal, and isn't necessarily appropriate to share on YouTube. But to give you a sense of, this is when I give spreads and things like this. I'm not just giving them in the abstract. This is actually, stuff that I'm doing with tarot, meditative work, personal work that I'm doing with tarot, to try and use it for something better. So, anyways, that's all I have. I'm at about 16 minutes, so I'm going to wind this video down, but thanks for listening, and yeah, for those of you on the East Coast, stay dry.